right now on the National Weather Desk. State of emergency. Another storm is pounding California as heavy rainfall brings the risk of flash flooding and even more heavy snow.
This is an unrivaled, unparalleled weather event not experienced in several decades.
Wintry weather. The Northeast gearing up for another storm while the Midwest has a snowy
Nation's capital. This is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Well, California's wettest winter in memory just will not quit. Another atmospheric river is pounding the this morning.
An atmospheric river aimed at Central California coast is expected to bring additional rain, wind, thunderstorms, and even intense snowfall across parts of the higher elevations through this weekend. Now, an atmospheric river is a narrow stream of very concentrated water vapor in the higher levels of the atmosphere. And once it makes landfall, it brings around intense precipitation for a short period of time in the way of rain and snowfall. So we're looking for Central California at the threat for flooding through the day today and into the start of the weekend, particularly for many coastal areas. This includes the threat for mudslides and additional power outages, and then more snowfall in store for some of the higher elevations as well. Rain along the coast through the day today, extending north into Northern California through Sunday, looking at snowfall rates in excess of about 18 inches over the next weekend or so, especially for many higher elevation spots. Mammoth Lakes could see 40 inches of snow as this event ends.
Well, all across California, residents and emergency service workers are preparing for the possibility of historic flooding. Tens of millions of people could feel the effects of this storm. Now, we have two reporters this morning, starting with Audrey Meyer in the Lake Tahoe region.
I haven't seen one like this in years.
Snowmageddon continues for South Lake Tahoe. After several winter storms, now they are preparing for an atmospheric river to hit the region.
The sandbags will actually block some of the water. It's not a guarantee. It's not a sure fix, but at least it's going to provide a decent amount of protection if water does breach or even come close to breaching their home.
Flooding is imminent as storm drains are blocked by snow, but that isn't the city's only concern. Heavy snow loads have caused several roofs to collapse in recent days. South Lake Tahoe Fire says it was almost like an explosion, the insulation from the roof scattering several feet beyond the collapse.
This year has been so extraordinary. We're asking people to clear the snow off their roofs. Anybody who's experiencing more than 3 feet on their roofs, it really should come off.
South Lake Tahoe Fire says thankfully no injuries have been reported, but more buildings could collapse when the next storm hits. And in the meantime, residents have a warning for tourists.
You don't need to come to Tahoe this weekend. There's way too many things going on here, and you're just going to be in the way, causing problems, and we'd love to see you later on, but stay away.
This is an unrivaled, unparalleled weather event not experienced in several decades, perhaps back to 1969. But it could be even worse than that. Again, the impacts are unimaginable, and we want everyone to prepare.
The Fresno County Office of Emergency Services is warning everyone to prepare for the big storm. It's expecting to see dangerously high water flow beyond historic levels that even experts don't know what to expect.
There will be high water in areas that are usually not impacted, so everyone needs to be ready, even if you live far away from normally impacted high water areas.
Well, all the rain will make the snow on roofs even heavier, as you just heard. The weight can either collapse the roof or just suddenly fall to the ground. This is a significant hazard that has turned deadly, and that's why so many people across the West have been clearing snow off roofs in advance of this next storm. Just wild video. Well, snow is also the headline this morning in the upper Midwest and Northeast. It's snowing right now in the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, and a couple of inches are expected in the northeast portions of Pennsylvania and New York State are also expecting to see some snow. So winter not over just yet. Meteorologist Phil DeCastro is checking out conditions on Wisconsin roads this morning.
I would say, slushy roads with some snow as well on the road surfaces. Very slick, though, still, so you still want to make sure that you're going nice and slow. As we've kind of gotten down more toward the north side of Appleton here, there's been a little bit more snow on the road, but you can see some pavement, though, through some of that slush, especially in the right lane. Still quite a bit of snow in the left lanes there. It's not like the roads are impassable or anything, but you absolutely just want to plan on going slowly and giving yourself extra time to where you need to go.
Well, switching gears, El Nino is on the way. On Thursday, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said La Nina has officially ended. El Nino is associated with a band of warm water in the Pacific Ocean, which impacts weather patterns across the globe. It generally increases hurricane activity in the Pacific, but has the opposite effect in the Atlantic. So as El Nino begins this summer, we could see a less active Atlantic hurricane season. Always need to be prepared, though. Did you know that a beloved seafood actually protects our shorelines? Well, dozens of student volunteers in South Alabama gathered on a clear day recently to relocate oyster reefs. As Kim Anderson reports, they could possibly serve as barriers against the next storm that rolls through the area.
It's a perfect day to be on the water, but this day in the sun isn't about fun, but about saving our natural resources in the Gulf.
Basically grabbing and peeling the oysters off of this rebar and geogrid cages that we had and salvaging those oysters and putting them back out on our site here at Lightning Point in Biola Battery.
The Nature Conservancy, along with the Dauphin Island Sea Lab, is in phase 2 of a reef repurposing project. Last year, they created this Lightning Point reef in Biola Battery to grow oysters. They checked on those oysters periodically. Those that grew are now being relocated.
The Lightning Point restoration is a large-scale marsh restoration project to protect the shoreline, and we're doing small-scale oyster restoration activities in conjunction with that. So this is building 2 restoration projects, one on top of the other. So the oysters will then strengthen the shoreline, which also helps keep the marsh intact.
This process will culminate this summer, leading eventually to massive growth in the area.
Well, are you ready? It's almost time for us to spring forward. Daylight saving time starts this weekend. And whether you're on board with the time change or think it's outdated, it still has an impact. Kelly Koopsman in Seattle has more.
With temperatures like these, it might feel like the dead of winter, but it's already time to start thinking about spring forward. That means you lose that extra hour of sleep that your body needs to keep your brain functioning at its best.
When you go to bed at night, your brain actually shrinks down and it squeezes out waste, trash, toxins, keeping your brain clean.
That is sleep expert Dr. Mark Milstein. He says that sleep doesn't just make you feel better, it's like a rinse cycle for your brain.
Just like a house or an apartment that fills up with too much waste or garbage or trash. It's hard to focus. It's hard to find things. Same thing with the brain.
Losing sleep can lead to mood changes, fatigue, concentration issues, and more. So how can you make the transition easier? Prioritize morning light by getting outside for 10 minutes. It's not just refreshing. There's a chemical reaction going on.
The brain clock notices that light. It helps shut off melatonin, which helps your brain wake up. And so also getting outside really helps with fresh air, a little bit of stress relief. So it's kind of a bundle.
Dr. Milstein says start good practices now. Don't rely on sleep medications to be your first line of defense. Take a warm shower 90 minutes before bed and stop consuming fluids 2 hours before bed. Lastly, keep daytime naps under 30 minutes.
Well, NASA is tracking a new asteroid that has a small chance of hitting Earth in about 20 years on Valentine's Day, 2046. So the asteroid is 164 feet in diameter, which is roughly the size of an Olympic swimming pool. Now, the agency says it continues to monitor the asteroid daily, and currently they rank it as, quote, extremely unlikely with no cause for public concern. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll talk with an expert on how you can best prepare for allergy season. And we'll head to Florida for a look at the start of turtle nesting season. And as we head to break, a look at some beautiful lake fog in southern Michigan.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a little storm system moving through parts of New York, New Jersey, and southern New England during the course of our Friday and Saturday. Here we are at 11 o'clock tonight. Notice some snow, some rain for other parts of the area. The back edge of that snow and rain is going to move out during the course of the day on Saturday. Northern New England is going to miss out on this one entirely here. So as far as snowfall amounts go, there probably will be some spots, especially in New York, that get about 2 to 5 inches of snow, lighter amounts in southern New England.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor, a mixture of rain and some higher elevation snow north and west. Maybe a coating here and there on some of the grassy surfaces, again, those highest elevations. And as we work through the day, it gradually shifts over to rain for everybody, and it is just chilly with high temperatures having a hard time getting into the 30s and 40s most locales as that next weather maker moves through. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. It looks like we're seeing a high of 55 in Raleigh, 68 in Macon compared to Pensacola, 80 degrees. Take a look at the difference in those temperatures. Warm air is going to move up ahead of an area of low pressure and then a cold front to follow. But definitely we'll see ahead of that those rain showers pushing through as we go through the afternoon. And then it starts clearing out behind that system. Cold front will extend across Florida and drop temperatures just a few degrees, especially in North Florida.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, severe weather week continues for many of us, and with that in mind, we turn to meteorologist Les Still with some tips on staying weather aware and how you should stay safe during a tornado.
Depends on really where you are living and what building you are in. However, when you see this map, it's the interior hallways, bathrooms, closets. That's the place you want to be. The idea is to put as many walls between you and that tornado as possible. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a basement to go into, that's actually the best place to be. Let's say you're in, though, a dormitory visiting a hospital and a tornado warning comes out. Again, same thing, lowest floor. Make sure that you move to an interior hallway, and if you have something to protect yourself, like a baseball helmet, a pillow, something to protect yourself from debris, that's a good tool to have as well. Unfortunately, if you live in a mobile home, if you can't run to a sturdy structure, best place may be to evacuate the home and head into a low-lying ditch. And again, grab a pillow, a blanket, or something to protect yourself. Not only do we have to worry about tornadoes, but we also have to worry about damaging winds coming from microburst. You can get heavy pockets of air up in thunderstorms that come racing out of the bottom of the thunderstorm and hit the ground in excess of 150 miles an hour, creating as much damage as a tornado potentially can. So those are some of the things you need to be aware of as we head into the springtime with severe weather season on the way.
So important. And we've all seen the pictures of pollen-covered surfaces, and you may already be feeling the impacts of spring. But have you ever thought about taking a more natural approach to battling pollen? Well, you'll want to listen to this. Emily Gracie recently spoke to a medical expert about the effectiveness of local honey to treat seasonal allergies.
So now we're approaching the spring, and the allergies that we are most concerned about at this type of season from winter to spring is pollen, right? Flowers are starting to bloom. So one of those pollen counts are going to get higher. We're also going to start seeing some mold allergies as well.
Do you have any idea if weather day to day impacts what's going on with the pollen?
You know, the impact of rain on allergies is a great lesson in science, because if you think about what's happening in rain, right, that's going to keep pollen counts down. We're not going to see a lot of pollen. You never do right after it rains. But you know what can potentially increase? Mold allergies.
Any tips to treat allergies?
You got to be proactive, so you reduce the amount of suffering that you're having. And part of it is knowing what the weather is, right, and preparing for it. The other aspect is really starting to take some medications prior to developing the symptoms.
Is using local honey to treat allergies? I'm curious, as a medical doctor, what your thoughts are on that.
And in theory, it sounds like that might work, right? Because bees and honey and pollen, they're all connected. So if I start using honey, maybe I'm going to desensitize myself to these pollen allergies. But the problem with honey is, first of all, the pollen that we're allergic to is different than the pollen that bees are using in honey. And bees have a whole mechanism once they, work with pollen to make honey, right? They digest it, they use enzymes. So it's not the same. In theory, it sounds like a good idea, but there's really no science to back it up.
Well, Dr. White mentioned which allergy medications work the best and which ones you want to avoid. So head over to YouTube to see the longer version of this interview. All you have to do is search the National Weather Desk and hit subscribe while you're there. Well, you probably already know that bees communicate the location of pollen by shaking their bodies, but researchers have discovered that young bees perfect the behavior by touching their antenna to older bees who are dancing. They figured that out by comparing hives of bees where the elders were removed to ones with experienced bees present. Bees in the hive without experienced dancers still used dancing to communicate, but had more errors. So it seems that young bees learn precision by observing their elders. Well, not all plants cause allergies, and as we head into spring, most people start to get out into their gardens to start planting fresh flower beds. Can't talk today, but March might not be the best time. Michael Owen is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, with a look at when is the best time to start planting that spring garden.
The cold front we had during this winter, there were so many consecutive days where everyone just lost everything. We haven't had any color in South Carolina for I want to say 4 months.
If you can't wait for the color to come back, the horticulture agent from Horry County's Clemson Extension says you may have to wait a few more weeks before you start planting.
We're still expecting some more frost or freezing temperatures, then we definitely need to wait a little while longer.
The landscape designer at Evergreen Nursery and Landscaping agrees. They're planning on bringing in a large majority of their plants and annuals inside for this weekend's cold weather.
We are having some kind of strange little cold front coming in through here, so the annuals are making me nervous. I'd probably wait a few more weeks.
If you just can't wait, Myers says you could plant winter hardy plants like winter annuals, azaleas, certain palms, or evergreens. But right now, you might want to consider doing something else for your garden.
Right now is a great time to start planting.
After the danger of frost is past is the best time to plant, probably April or May. But when to know when the exact time is right? Valor has a suggestion for you.
I would stay tuned to the weathermen, and check those weather apps and stuff like that, and maybe possibly even look up some historical data on kind of when those last frosts occur. But there's definitely nothing wrong with listening to the weatherman.
Yeah, local meteorologist, the way to go. Well, it is the beginning of sea turtle nesting season in West Palm Beach, Florida. But erosion from hurricanes Ian and Nicole are making beaches less inviting for mother turtles. But as Dylan Huberman found out, a lot is being done to fix that problem.
Biologist Cody Mott with the In-Water Research Group says he's been concerned with the extent of the beach erosion this year. Less sand means fewer turtles laying their eggs, but an aggressive renourishment project over the winter is quickly paying off, and expectations are high.
We're looking forward to a really strong nesting season, and with the beach renourishment projects and all the other conservation actions that are going on in the county, we think that we can be very successful.
One of the biggest ventures is starting this week. More than $11 million is being spent to restore the beach at Jetty Park along the Fort Pierce Inlet. St. Lucie County is paying 12%, and the Army Corps of Engineers is picking up the rest of the bill. When it's complete, the shoreline will be dozens of yards beyond its current edge.
The project entails placing about 500,000 cubic yards of material from offshore sources, and this is meant to remedy the impacts of the Fort Pierce Inlet.
Some of what's dumped on this beach will wash away. The waves and current will help to spread that same sand across other southern beaches.
In order to remedy the coastal system, we have to take sands that would have otherwise made their way past the inlet, place them on our beach so that they can move south and nourish all the rest of St. Lucie County shoreline.
In the end, it means more room for the turtles to lay their nests.
Looking at the beach after this winter, it's a lot wider in some places that it was pretty narrow, usually there in October and November, so it should be good.
Well, as we head to break, let's take to the skies over the Seattle harbor.
Happy Friday, everyone. I'm meteorologist Phil Kelly. Two storms to talk about. Today's going over the Great Lakes, northern Ohio, northern Indiana, into Michigan. Milwaukee and South Bend, Cleveland, all going to see snow today. Tomorrow's snow is going to be into the upper Midwest, so we kind of quiet down in the Ohio Valley. Another round of snow showers into the Dakotas and into Minneapolis for tomorrow. Some warmer air eventually starting to come our way by the end of the weekend.
Well, hi, everybody. It is Friday morning, and as we slide into the end of the week here on the West Coast, we've got a big storm continuing to pump in the heavy rain, the gusty winds into the Golden State. Mid-50s today in the Bay Area with that heavy rain at times near San Francisco. 81 ahead of the storm in Phoenix. This is the weather maker, an atmospheric river that has its sights set on the Sacramento Valley today as well. Heavy snow eventually turning to heavy rain in the Sierra. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
There's plenty of snow on the ground in Maine, but that isn't stopping some aggressive tulips from peeking out of the snow. There is so much snow north of Lake Tahoe, California Highway Police are offering it up for free. UC Berkeley estimates more than 16 feet has fallen there in the past 2 weeks. Up to 6 more feet could fall by Sunday, with wind gusts over 60 miles per hour.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
And as we've been talking about, California could see some heavy flooding this weekend, so we thought it might be a good time to brush up on some flood safety tips. Here is meteorologist Sonia Stevens.
First of all, don't ever underestimate the power and force of water. Now, flash floods typically occur within a few hours, while floods occur more slowly and can take more than 6 hours. Now, it's important to turn around and don't drown. If you cannot judge the depth of the water on the road, you do not want to drive past that. And it's important to remember that because flooding and flash flooding, the #1 killer associated with thunderstorms.
Well, Monday, we have a special Well, Monday we have a special episode of the National Weather Desk. We're going to look back at the blizzard of 93, and we want to hear from you. Share your story or video. Head over to our Twitter page and share. Just search the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.